into the chat as we go, and I will try to stay current with it. Um, all right, we got 7 watching now, so I think I'm gonna get started because I have no idea. And if people just drop in the middle, they'll kind of wonder what they missed, or maybe it'll just be really boring because they won't have seen any context for it. But anyway, I am going to let's see here. Still getting the hang of this program here. Oh yeah. Okay, so I usually like to start off with something like a philosophical quote or something like that. To me, it gives like a little bit of I don't know. Music is a thing that's almost religious to certain people. It's almost like that, where it's I think a lot of modern music doesn't really get into that philosophical part of music. So I just wanted to give some sense of that to start off the lessons, just to like get our minds expanded. So I'll start the lesson with just a brief philosophical quote. If any of you guys have anything to add to it, feel free to in the chat. But this quote we're going to start with is by Plato. He says, "Music is a moral law. It gives a soul to the universe, wings to the mind, flight to the imagination, a charm to sadness, and life to everything. It is the essence of order and leads to all that is good, just, and beautiful, of which it is the invisible but nevertheless dazzling, passionate, and eternal form." Plato's basically calling music the blueprint of the universe, and I think that is probably correct. That's not to say music like we have it in our modern day is probably similar to the music that makes the cosmos go around, but music and those proportional relationships are the underpinnings of the universe. So I think Plato hit the nail on the head here. I have one more quotation. It's a little bit longer. It's from a philosopher, linguist from the 1800s in France who I really like, named Fabre d'Olivet. And he's analyzing a Pythagorean maxim. And I don't know if you know what those are, but there's a thing called the Golden Verses of Pythagoras, which are the only thing that survived like all of his students getting lit on fire, but basically they all went up in flames, and one guy, Lysis, survived and transmitted his sayings orally over centuries later. Over the next few centuries, it survived by word of mouth. Anyway, so there's a quote from the Golden Verses, and these quotes are all these little kernels that need to be unpacked. So but the Pythagorean quote is, sorry, I'm not good at Old English. "That which thou dost not know, pretend not that thou doest. Instruct thyself, for time and patience favor all." So Fabre d'Olivet goes into the internal sense of this maxim. So here's what he says, and Lysis was the one who transmitted these orally after Pythagoras died. But anyway, what he means by that, it seems pretty obviously. Don't pretend to know what you do. Don't pretend to know what you don't know, and understand what it is you don't know, and don't pretend you do know what you don't. That's it. So D'Olivet's examination of this one says, "Lysis has enclosed in these 2 lines the summary of the doctrine of Pythagoras regarding science. According to the philosopher, all science consists of knowing how to distinguish what one does not know, and of desiring to learn that of which one knows nothing. Socrates had adopted this idea as simple as profound, and Plato has consecrated several of his dialogues to its development." And he goes on, "But the distinction between what one does not know and the desire to learn that of which one is ignorant is a thing much rarer than one imagines. It is the golden mean of science, as difficult to possess as that of virtue, and without which it is, however, impossible to know oneself." I'll let you read the rest of it there. It's a fantastic book, the Golden Examinations on the Golden Verses of Pythagoras by Fabre d'Olivet. He also has a really awesome book on the history of, like, the esoteric history of music, called The Secret Lore of Music, right here, translated by Jocelyn Godwin. An excellent read, and kind of broken into these little essays that D'Olivet wrote. But the guy is a real powerhouse of the mind. Anyway, we're going to start by getting into some real specifics about the harmonic series. So I'm going to break down exactly what the harmonic series is. So I'm going to define what the harmonic series is. This is my bloated definition, and then I'm going to kind of pick apart each of the particulars of that definition. So hopefully you really understand it, and I will take questions. Chet Lee says, thanks for doing this, buddy. Heck yeah, Chet, thanks for watching. Let's dive right in here. We're going to get pretty deep on the harmonic series. So if some of it seems like it's too much, just hang in there. You will eventually get it if you're on my Patreon. It's going to be a lot of repetition. But here's my bloated definition of the harmonic series. The musical harmonic series is an ineffaceable, naturally occurring phenomenon manifesting as a sequence of incrementally ascending overtones that rest on immovable principles which nothing can alter and resonate covertly and simultaneously within any note produced on an acoustic, pitch-producing instrument, furnishing musicians with the primary elements of their craft, which is harmony, and from that comes melody, that's one, and rhythm, and timbre, the way instruments sound, actually comes from the harmonic series, and expressed mathematically as simple whole number ratios from 1 to infinity. 1 over 1, 2 over 1, 3 over 1, 4 over 1. Does anyone see a pattern there? And contain considerable tuning discrepancies from the popular 12-tone equal temperament tuning system that we use in our pop and jazz and classical. In general, each subsequent harmonic diminishes in volume, the multitude of which the average ear detects only the one pitch. Okay. That definitely, I don't even like the way that sounds. I mean, I like wordiness sometimes, but gosh. So anyway, harmonic series. Oh gosh, why is that all on that side? Oh, there we go. So this, when you play one note, you don't realize it, but out comes an infinite number of notes. It's like this. Here's the note you play, but out comes these proportions of notes, and the ratios are simple. The note you think you're hearing is 1 over 1, and the notes that are also ringing out in diminishing volume are 2 over 1, 3 over 1, 4 over 1, 5 over 1, 6 over 1. Perfect harmonies with those exact proportions, which are actually different than the harmonies or the tuning system we use, where we basically take an octave and we divide it into 12 equal parts. So I'm going to go over the particulars of this definition real quick. The first harmonic is represented by the ratio 1 over 1. It is the single pitch that the ear perceives from a single struck note, even though a multitude of overtones are resonating above it. So the big secret here is you don't even have a musical pitch if the harmonic series doesn't exist. The only way to make a note sound musical and not have the harmonic series is to make it on a synthesizer. You can generate like a sine wave that's literally just one note. But if you have any pitch-producing instrument in nature and it has a note, oh, the reason it sounds like a note, oh, instead of a noise, is because of the presence of that harmonic series. So yeah, that's a good visual representation. Here's the note you're hitting, but out comes all of these infinite number of notes. And this is just plain science. It's shockingly not part of Western music education at all. So remember I said a digital sine wave can have just one note, but look at this acoustic string. That's there, a human voice. So everything has got different harmonics that are sticking out and are accentuated, and that's what gives it its unique timbre. So I want to get to all these parts of the definition just so you get a little overview, but you have this file to download if you want to. After the first harmonic, each subsequent harmonic that resonates above it, 2 over 1, 3 over 1, 4 over 1, is just a single sine wave overtone. In other words, each of the new notes doesn't then emit a harmonic series of its own. It's just a single note by itself. They call that an overtone. All acoustic instruments, I already said this, but all acoustic instruments that exhibit a discernible musical pitch do so because they transmit the harmonic series. It is only possible to create instruments without a harmonic series with a synthesizer. So percussive instruments that have no perceivable pitch tones and also noise type of instruments such as a shaker have no organized harmonic series, but rather seemingly random harmonics that aren't in a particular order, such as the harmonic series. The presence of that harmonic series differentiates sounds that have a musical, hummable pitch from non-pitched percussion or a noise timbre. So that's literally the difference, is the harmonic series is the great secret of music. Notes that have a musical pitch have the harmonic series. Things that sound noisy or percussive only do not have the harmonic series. I've said that a bunch of times, but I just wanted to drive it in. Some instruments, such as a tom-tom drum, have both a pitch as well as a non-pitched, an enharmonic component, they would say. Instruments also that emit complex waveforms, such as bells and glockenspiels, contain both the harmonic series as well as some strange enharmonic overtones, which imbue them with the complex timbre. So consecutive harmonics of the harmonic series. So 1/1, remember I said is the note you think you're hitting, 1/1. Then 2/1 rings out. That's an octave above it. 3/1 is basically a perfect fifth. 4/1 is another octave. We'll go over all that. But this fifth point here, the consecutive harmonics of the musical harmonic series are represented by ratios. For example, the first harmonic, we call it the fundamental, or that's the bass note. And you can start a harmonic series from any note. I happen to use C as just my bass line. You see here, the note you think you're hitting is this 1, and then the octave is double. So in the harmonic series, an octave is double. That's not the same as Western music, which uses an arbitrary major scale to tell us 8 is an octave or 12 chromatic notes. But understand that anytime you double or half it, it's the same note. It's just like a frequency of hertz. So if I have 100 hertz, 200 hertz is an octave above that, and 400 hertz is an octave above that. So in this case, we're just using the idea that 1 equals C. That's our given, and therefore 2 would equal C, and every other note will fall somewhere within that octave. You can always reduce things to an octave, because octave, you might not know it, but an octave is the law. It's the law of the universe. It's the part we can't change of music. It's where the circle comes back. I think I have a circle down here somewhere. If you were drawing the harmonic series on a circle, I need to zoom out on that a little bit. Okay, if I was drawing let's get rid of that one. Sorry, guys. So see this? If I were to draw one dot on the top of the circle, I have the note 1. And then I draw the entire circle and come back to where 1 was, and we have 2. So at that point, we have nothing inside of it, but we've created our octave. So an octave very much represents the law. It really does. You can't change that a note is the same at an octave. It's like you can have whatever opinion you want, but an octave is an octave and is the ultimate law of music. And I really think of the universe as well. The law of octaves could translate in so many different ways. But so we went over 0.5 there. Let's go back to zooming in a little on these points. Okay, so the harmonic series, I said, is ineffaceable because it is automatically ringing inside of any note played on an acoustic pitch-producing instrument. No act of human will or opinion can change the fact that a note contains a discernible pitch. It's musical because of the harmonic series. In nature, there is no hummable pitch that can be produced without the harmonic series. So this thing is really everywhere. It's not taught by Western music, and it is. We really should know about the tuning of it because the tuning is not the same as Western music. All right, getting through these points here just to break open this definition a little bit. The harmonic series furnishes musicians with harmony, also melody, because of that relationship. So when we have the idea of a 1, we also have the idea of something related to it. So every harmony we know is because there's a given fundamental pitch or a bass pitch or something like that. So if I said the harmonic series furnishes musicians with harmony and also therefore melody because any note that is played on top of that fundamental 1/1 represents a pitch relationship that can be expressed as a whole number ratio with the harmony on the top or the numerator and the fundamental bass note in the denominator. All harmony whatsoever is possible and expressed by a particular numerical fractional relationship to 1. Now, when I say 1, let's not forget that law of octave. This 1 is the same note as 2, as 4, as 8 in the harmonic series. So you can change, those are all interchangeable. There's no difference in the value. If I say 3/2 and 3/1, it's the same relationship except separated by an octave. So it's not really, just remember that. Any double or half is the same note in the harmonic series, the same way it is with hertz or frequencies. Now, the harmonic series furnishes musicians with the principle of rhythm because every possible harmony is actually just an expression of some specific rhythm. The reason it sounds like a harmony is because it's vibrating at a particular rate. Despite the fact that the human ear does not perceive the harmony or the rhythm when I play this doesn't sound like a polyrhythm to me. It's because it's vibrating so fast. But the harmony is a polyrhythm nonetheless. That's all a harmony is. So I don't know if a lot of us have thought about harmony like that, but it really is just a rhythm. Now, the third thing the harmonic series gives musicians is the diversity of timbre, the unique sound characteristic of any particular instrument. Each instrument's unique tonal quality is largely shaped by which harmonics are more or less prominent amplitude-wise in that instrument's harmonic series. Most instruments contain not only the harmonic series, but also certain enharmonic or noise type of tones, or a plucking tone, like on a guitar, how it hits the pluck as a percussive, then it rings out the note. Bow noise would be another example of a noisy element, but there's also a pitch element. So yeah, it is wild what comes from the harmonic series, but it's literally everything. And to think we're so not attuned to it is kind of crazy as musicians. And it's hard with our Western instruments. These pianos are not tuned to it. Voices can tune to it. Strings can tune to it. But it's a task. It's not easy. You should at least know, though. It's something worth knowing. The tuning of the harmonic series deviates in varying degrees depending on which harmonic we're talking about from the intervals in our widely used but flawed 12-tone equal temperament system. 12-tone equal temperament, for better or worse, simply divides an octave into 12 equally spaced intervals and sacrifices the in-tuneness of the harmonic series for the convenience of easily playing in many different keys on fixed-pitch instruments such as, guitars and pianos. And it does preserve the same degree of out-of-tuneness in each key that it goes to, which does help our ears acclimate to those imperfections. In fact, a lot of us, I think, are completely used to that this is an in-tune sounding major chord. But for those who know the harmonic series, know that the major third is 14% out of tune. It's 14% sharp in the 12-tone equal temperament system compared to the harmonic series. Music that aims to correct the tuning deficiencies of 12-tone equal temperament and align to the whole number ratios of the harmonic series is called just intonation and determines tuning solely based on whole number ratios. So anyway, this is really quickly, I'm assuming most of you know the 12 intervals of equal temperament. So if you look at this chart here, let me see, can I zoom in any more on that? No. Okay. Maybe I can do that. So if we're in C, and this is our harmonic series, going up a half step is called a minor second. Going up a whole step is called a major second. Going up a minor third is called a minor third. Sorry. Going up to a major third. So these are just all of the intervals in a row. You have this interval. And so this chart tells us how out of tune it is in just intonation or in the harmonic series and what percentage of error it has. And is it perfect or is it very close? Is it slightly out of tune, fairly close? I can't get into it now, but what does the ear hear? Science uses this measurement called sense, which is a way to tell us how far apart something is. So just memorize that there's 1,200 cents in an octave. So between these two notes, that's 1,200 cents. So if you divide it evenly, it's 100 cents up a half step, another 100 cents, another 100 cents. They're all exactly even. See this here? Everyone goes up 100 cents. But over here, you can see how it actually plays out in the harmonic series and which harmonic gives us that. So if I go straight up from this C, the first harmonic that gives us a minor second is actually the 17th harmonic. Don't worry about that now or why. We'll get more into that at another lesson. But it's 5 cents sharper in the harmonic series. Now, what can the average ear hear? There's been studies on this, and what they've came up with was at about 12 cents, average Joe's ear can tell there's a different note. If you're less than 12 cents, it's pretty close to in tune. So as soon as you get further than 12 cents, it starts to get a little bit too far. And if the closer you are to 0 cents of deviation, the closer it's going to be in tune. So I don't know does that make sense to you? Let's see. If anyone has questions about any of that stuff, go ahead and put it in the chat. I'm going to keep going over each interval so you can see which ones are really out of tune in 12-tone equal temperament. So therefore, that minor second is 5 cents out of tune. And since cents are 100 cents per semitone, that actually gives us a nice percentage reading. So it's 5 cents sharp. In equal temperament, we're 5 cents flat, which remember I said 12 cents is bad, and this is a dissonant interval anyway. That's acceptable. Now, the major second, the first harmonic that gives us that, And if I wanted to show you one more way, see right here, the ninth harmonic, we're in C. The ninth harmonic appears there, so that's another way to see it on that horizontal chart. But anyway, the major second is given to us by the ninth harmonic, and if we're just in equal temperament, it's 200 cents above our root of C. But in the harmonic series, or just intonation, it's 204 cents. So it's 4 cents sharper in the harmonic series. So that's a 4% deviation. Pretty close. Remember I said 12% is bad, or starting to get worse, and if you're like less than 8, 7, 6, 5, that's all pretty good. So that's good. So far our first two are pretty good. Minor third, the 19th harmonic gives us our first minor third, and if you want to see that on here, I'll show you. Check this out. So the 19th harmonic, see what we're in C, and an octave, the double is C, and everything is in between. You have your 12 intervals, but the harmonics don't fall exactly on them. So hard to see the sense reading unless you zoom in, but the 19th harmonic gives us our very first minor third possibility. Up until that, the harmonic series is absolutely ringing out perfect fifths and major chords and even dominant chords that are tuned very differently. So I'm going to just get through these really quick here. So minor third is only 3 cents off. It's supposed to be 3 cents flatter in the harmonic series. That is pretty good, and it's also a semi-distant interval, a minor third. Major third is 400 cents in equal temperament above this root of C, but look, in the harmonic series, it's 386 cents. So it's 14 cents or 14% sharp in equal temperament. We've got a problem. That's more than 12 cents. And not only that, major third is our note of beauty. So if I were to sing, if I just play a perfect fifth here and sing, and here when I play that, it's a little sharper than what I sing because my ear's going to tune to these bass notes. It's sharp, and that's our beauty note. So big stinker there. That's the biggest problem of equal temperament, is probably the major third. It's acceptable for just pounding out chords, but it's not good for meditative music or music that, you should tune that if you can. If you're a singer, you should be able to naturally tune that. Perfect fourth is only 2 cents off, and it's based on what I call the negative third harmonic. And you might wonder what the negative third harmonic is because, let me show you that chart again. Check this out. So the third harmonic is going a perfect fifth above the root. Now the opposite possibility of that is non-manifest, but it would be going a perfect fifth below the root. And if I put that into the same octave, you can see it's -3. So there are such as negative harmonics that are the opposite possibility. I hope that makes sense to you. So the opposite of going up a perfect fifth, or which is the third harmonic, is going down a perfect fifth. And then I always want to crunch things into the same octave so that I can see where it lasts. And really it gives us that whole thing of perfect fifth versus perfect fourth. Pretty interesting. So anyway, that's our... Sorry. So the perfect fourth comes from the negative third harmonic, and it's only 2 cents off, so that's good. I'll take that. The diminished fifth, the most dissonant interval in all of music, and is actually the antithesis of our one because it's halfway around the circle. I don't know if you realize that, but do I have a... Oh. Let's look at this. So the F sharp, check it out, is if this is our principal note, it's the exact opposite part of the circle. So it is, what do you know, that lying on the other side of the circle is the most dissonant note in all of music, called the flatted fifth or the tritone. So the first harmonic that gives us a pretty close one is 45, and that's 9 times 5, so there is some multiplicity in there, but that's 10 cents off. It's within acceptable range, and on dissonant intervals, it matters a little bit less, so it's not a pretty interval. But anyway, the perfect fifth, or what we call the perfect fifth in Western music, I think we really screw ourselves by giving it that name. We name it based on the major scale, but look at the harmonic series. The harmonic series is nature. It's given to us by the third harmonic, but every time Western musicians play a perfect fifth, boom, 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 they think 5. 1, 5, 1, 5, but it's really, we should be thinking 3, or it's the principle of 3 that gives that harmony. It is absolutely not the principle of 5. Just because a major scale exists doesn't mean it's the principle of everything or the cause. It's It's an effect of the harmonic series. But when you reverse cause and effect, that's one of the greatest errors you can make in science. So anyway, the interval of the perfect fifth is only 2 cents sharp in the harmonic series. So that is completely acceptable, and honestly is the reason why 12-tone equal temperament works, is because that perfect fifth is so close. Remember, the major third was kind of a stinker. Fifths, unbelievably close. If I tried to sing, I couldn't even sing within 2 cents. I mean, most singers are going to vibrato. 2 cents is amazingly close. Now, our minor sixth interval, we're in C. Remember, C is our first note, our fundamental note, so everything's related in relationship to that. Our first minor sixth interval is the 25th harmonic, and that is 28 cents flat. Look at this. It's 800 cents in equal temperament, but 772 in the harmonic series. So 28 cents literally means that's a note we don't even have. That is so far below that, the 28 cents, that it's a note that's supposed to be flatter than that. I could demonstrate it on the cello if I play it in a minute. So that one is another real stinker, but it's a dissonant note. So that's why when we use that note, that harmony, it's in a lot of like cinematic and minor key music. But I tell you, this 25th harmonic sounds absolutely fantastic to be flat, 28 cents flatter than that. So very out of tune. I called that major third slightly out of tune, but being the beauty note, it's almost worse than that. Now A, our major sixth. So from C to A is a major sixth, and you can see that it's 6 cents sharp in the harmonic series. So that's an acceptable deviation, so that's pretty close. Here is the biggest problem of all, and I wish I could demonstrate it on something besides my cello, but so the harmonic series unfolds like this. 1. So let's see. Okay. So we have 1, 2, 3, and then 4 is a double of 2, so it's C again. Then 5 is actually the major third. Then 6 is a double of 3, so that's that perfect fifth again. And finally, the universe is ringing out a dominant 7 chord in each every note you play. Dominant 7 chord makes the whole universe go around. But look at this tuning. Holy crap. It is 31 cents sharp in equal temperament. So in the harmonic series, this is a note that does not exist in equal temperament, and it is a magical note. It still has some tension, but the dominant 7 chord we play in blues and whatever is a note of complete tension, because you have this really sharp dominant 7th and you have a sharp major 3rd, and it just makes you want to move on to the next chord. If you were to listen to a truly in tune, I released a video recently that tuned my guitar perfectly to a dominant 7 chord of the harmonic series, and it is astounding the geometry you'll hear. So almost through the intervals here, so you can see which ones are out of tune or in tune, and you can start memorizing. It's really important to memorize how off each interval is between the 12-tone equal temperament and the harmonic series. Just so you know, it's not that hard to memorize. I have all of these memorized, and I have for years. They're not hard to memorize, but you just want to know. So the major 7th, that's we're almost home to the octave. The first interval that makes a major 7th is, look up here, 15. So C, and major 7 is B. It's the 15th harmonic, and look at it's 12 cents flat in the harmonic series, or it's 12 cents sharp in 12-tone equal temperament, and that's right about that boundary where I said it starts getting out of tune. So I'm going to call that one slightly out of tune, and octaves are always perfect because they're just doubles. So that's all of the Western intervals and how they compare to just intonation or the harmonic series. So the ones you need to know that are pretty badly out of tune are the major third is 14 cents sharp, or 14% sharp in equal temperament. Then we have the minor 6th is 28% sharp in equal temperament, and that dominant 7th is 31% or 31 cents sharp in equal temperament. And then also that major 3rd is pretty close to being out of tune, although it's not that bad. Our ears are used to this stuff, but when you play the right intervals though and start learning it, or tuning them on synthesizers that you can see. So I want to hip you to something here. How do they figure out a ratio? How many cents something is off? And it's actually a logarithmic thing. I used to be able to do it. 1200 log 2 a parentheses a function of the ratio F2 over F1, so like a ratio. I used to be able to plug it into a computer, but there is something that makes it way simpler. guys, go to a web browser, and I want you to type in BAIN in Google or whatever, Bain ratio to sense, and then you should get this this thing, which basically does that thing I was just showing you, that logarithmic. So it tells us how many cents something is off. So let's start really basic here, guys. If you bring it up, 2 over 1. So 1, remember I said there's 1,200 cents in an octave between here and here? Oh, sorry. You guys can't even see this because I didn't take this part off, sorry. Anyway, so I'm typing in 2 over 1 saying convert to cents. I want you guys to play around with this when you get off of here. You can even do some right now. So that's an octave. It says 1,200 cents right there. That's our octave. So 1 is our bass note, and then the second note of the harmonic series is an octave. So now, if I say 3 over 1, it's going to give us, I don't want any rating to be more than 1,200 cents because that crosses an octave. Everything can be compressed to 1 octave, and it's the same value musically. So all I need to do to get that is make this, is that denominator, numerator? The bottom one, 2. And remember, 2 is the same note as 1. So now it's going to say 701.955 cents. So if I'm at this bass note and then I want to go up 700 cents, here's 100 cents, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700. So it should be 702 cents, but it's only 700. And remember, we already kind of went over that on this thing. What do you know? The perfect fifth, 702 cents. So that's where you get this stuff from. It's not super complicated. So the fourth harmonic is also an octave, right? Double of 2 is 4. So there you go, 1,200 cents. How about that fifth? What's the fifth harmonic? Oh, more than 1,200 cents. So we're going to change the bottom note up, you double it. So it's the same value when you double any note, no matter what it is or no matter where it is. I just like to contain it all to 1 octave or less than 1,200 cents. So right here, 386 cents above the root should 0.314 cents, but you can't do in most cents fractions of a cent. And a cent is not very much anyway because the average ear can only hear 12 cents of deviation. But anyway, if we go up from the root, 100, 200, 300, 400 is our equal tempered major third, but you can see in the harmonic series it wants to be 386. And these are all demonstratable on a string too. All these correct notes pop out of every string and you can play it and see. But 6 is a double of 3, so that's going to be another one of those 701.95 or 702 cents. Last one, let's do 7 over 4. And you can see, instead of it being 100, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 100, or 1,000, it wants to be 31 cents flatter than that. So pretty cool stuff here. I encourage you guys, look it up, Bain ratio to cents. There's other ratio to cents calculators, but you can really start playing around with, what's the 17th harmonic? And the way to do that would be, the harmonic number you want is there, and then you need to have some multiple of 1 here. And we want to keep it in 1 octave. So look what happens if I do it over 4. Oh no, 2,500 cents. So let's go to 8. Oh, 1,300, that's more than 1,200 cents. Let's go to 16. Those are the same note. It doesn't change anything. So remember I said the first time we get a minor second is from the 17th harmonic. And you can even see it on this chart as well. 17th harmonic going from C to C sharp. There it is. So anyway, that's pretty cool stuff. I think that's pretty awesome, and it just starts getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So remember that these harmonics are not linear. So going from 1 to 2, so if I put 2 again on top, that's a full octave. Then if we were going from like 3 to 2, it's not. It just keeps getting smaller and shorter up into infinity, the same way that light sort of does that as well. So anyway, if anyone has any questions on any of that stuff, you could save it till the end. But remember, the law of octave defines everything for music for us. And harmonics are not linear. So the space between 1 and 2 is a full octave. The space between 2 and 3 is a perfect fifth. The space between 3 and 4 is a perfect fourth because it's going back up to the octave. The space between 4 and 5 is a major third. See how it just keeps getting smaller? That's what you need to know about this stuff. There's an infinite number of stuff to touch upon here. But chord changes even come out of the harmonic series. So I wanted to show you how we could conceptualize these. Because if we were playing a simple, like a doo-wop progression, let's say Earth Angel, C, A minor, F, G type of thing, we name our Roman numerals by the major scale, right? Everything comes from the major scale, and that's fine that we have a system like that. But which notes of the harmonic series do they actually come out of? So C, A minor, F, G, like so many doo-wop songs. Earth angel, won't you be mine? So, check this out. Okay. So this is that harmonic series, right? So 1 is C. We know that. That's a given. And you can do a harmonic series from any note and make 1 G of that, but you have to understand it all from one harmonic series. Then you can transpose it to any key you want it to be, and that is the same principles. But check out, C to A is actually going 1 to 27. Wow, 27 seems kind of high, but it's not high. Do you want to know why? Because it's 3 times 3 times 3, and anything that has multiplicity has harmony. So remember how I said the third harmonic was G? You see that here? So what the law that it's telling us is when you multiply something by 3, you basically get a perfect fifth. Yes, you have that little 2-cent tuning discrepancy, which will eventually add up. But if I say 1, which is C, times 3, you get the third harmonic of G. That means if you do any harmonic times 3, you're going to get the perfect fifth of that harmonic. Seem complex? Maybe, but not really. So watch, 1 times 3 gives us the third harmonic. Now what is 3 times 3? So we're at G. That would be, look, 9, which is D. So that's a perfect fifth above G. Now 9 times 3 is 27. It's right there. So it's 1 times 3 times 3 times 3. We get to that A. So the harmonic series kind of expands in perfect fifths like that, whereas the opposite of it would be perfect fourths, which is more of like a descending material type of thing than the expansive spiritualness of perfect fifths, for lack of a better word. But anyway, the chord progression C, A minor, F, G, I want you to understand where it comes from in the harmonic series. Is 1 is our fundamental, and then 27 is our A. So that chord progression goes 1 to 27, or I like to think of it as 3 to the third power. And high harmonics, if there's lots of multiplicity, are still super important, whereas if they're odd numbers or prime numbers, they don't have that multiplicity. But in this case, 1 times 3, C is 1, times 3 is G. So if you want to find its perfect fifth, you say times 3, it's 9, which is D. Its perfect fifth times 3, which is 27. Its perfect fifth would be actually 81, another E up here. But anyway, I hope that makes sense, that you can multiply any harmonic to find that harmonic's perfect fifth. When I figured that out years ago, I was like, why is this not taught? It's kind of crazy. But so we go to the chord progression to go C to A minor is going 1 to 27 in the harmonic series, but in Western music we would call that 1-6, right? Because the major scale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then 4, what we call 4 in which would be F, is actually the negative third harmonic. And let me show you another interesting thing. There is such a thing as negative harmonics. They're non-manifest, but they're the opposite possibility of the actual harmonic. So let me show you once again. I've showed you this before, but if I have C and then the third harmonic is going up a perfect fifth, it gives us G. The opposite possibility of going up a perfect fifth is going down a perfect fifth. Hello, Uncle Note. Thanks for joining in. Oh, and thanks for that, chat. Wow. So then I like to reduce everything to the same octave. So the opposite of going up a perfect fifth is going down a perfect fifth, and then I'm going to reduce it to this octave. So it gives us what I call the negative third harmonic. It's non-manifest, and it's the opposite of what the universe was just doing, which is opening up in perfect fifths, sort of spiritually, and then it's closing off in perfect fourths materially. And Jacob Collier actually talks about that, about the darkening of the fourths. But they're used all over jazz because we love the sound of that because it's like human folly. It's like the fourths are humans bungling everything, but it still sounds good. The same way dissonance sounds good, because you have to have the light and the dark. You have to have the dissonance and the tension and release. Anyway, so the negative third harmonic would be F. And there's an interesting way to find negative harmonics. You literally just have to go across this circle. So check this out. If here's 1 and here's the fifth harmonic, the negative fifth harmonic is right across. It's a G sharp. How about 9? C 1 to 9. What's the negative ninth harmonic? Would be straight across. It'd be somewhere near this 7. But yeah, you just go right across to find a negative harmonic. But anyway, our chord progression of C, A minor, F, G, I want to show you where that comes from in the harmonic series. 1, 27, which is 3 to the third power. So 1, 27, negative 3, positive 3, back home. And I think that there's a story inside of chord changes. You might think I'm crazy for saying that, but there's a story in chord changes. And we start on the root, we go into this shadow of the 27, which is 3 times 3 times 3. It's kind of up there. And then we go to like the material, the negative 3, and then we resolve it to like the spiritual, which is the positive 3, and then back home. 127, negative 3, 3, 1. But in Western tuning, we would call that 1, 6, 4, 5. So I just wanted you, it's not like I want to start talking to you in terms of like harmonic series chord progressions, but you should understand where each possibility comes from. And every musical possibility whatsoever comes from the harmonic series. So I'm going to play a drone right now, and I'm going to just play, show you guys some of these exotic notes that are out of tune. I'm going to do this for like 5 minutes. Then we're going to analyze a song. We're going to do some regular music. I'm going to analyze Wind Chimes by the Beach Boys. So stick around, Uncle Note. We're going to get to Wind Chimes here. If you're tuning in now, you can download the lesson at the top of the chat. There's a PDF file. But I want you guys to see, I'm going to play some, where's my drone? And I'm going to just talk through some of these harmonics and do the best I can to play them on a cello. I'm not a fantastic cellist, but I can pretty much find these in tune harmonic series notes. Okay, so there's my drone. Okay. You might not be able to see all of it or whatever, but so inside of this note is ringing all the notes. If I touch my finger halfway, I get 2. I'm only touching harmonics now. There's 3, perfect fifth, right? 4 is another double of 1. 5 is that major third that's here. That's 14 cents flat. 6. Now here the 7. Dominant 7. That's 31 cents flat. So I'm just gonna mess around with some of these notes. Here's a major third that's in tune. I'm gonna play that dominant 7th that's correctly tuned, which is in equal temperament. It'd be sharper like this, but in the harmonic series it's this. The 25th harmonic is supposed to be flatter, so that sounds like this instead of it's. And you even have microtones in the harmonic series, such as the 11th harmonic, which is between 2 notes and sounds exotic to our ears. Or like the 35th harmonic, like in Arabic music. It's exactly between 2 notes. So, yeah, I'm not a fantastic cellist, but I can sort of demonstrate it a little bit. But all right, I'm going to turn this off, and we're going to get to a regular song here. All right. Oh, there it is. Okay. So, Dada Cricket says the negatives make me think it's a clipothic harmony. Really interesting. Negatives are absolutely fascinating because they're the opposite possibilities of all of the manifest harmonics that are actually there. Negatives are the opposite possibility, and it really divides the universe into like a philosophical type of thing, where to me it's material versus spiritual. You could make that intellectual versus physical, but or physical and mental, whatever dichotomy you want to present there, it applies. It really does. So. Yeah, I'll get into more of that cello stuff to kind of demonstrate it. And the more if I practice it a little bit, it actually sounds a lot better because I'm kind of a hack as far as a cellist, but I can find the notes. But anyway, we're going to go to a regular song here because there's been so much harmonic series. So let's go. Grab your keyboards or guitars if you have them. We're going to do a song called Wind Chimes off the Beach Boys' Smile album. Not one of the more complex songs, but it's pretty nice the way that it plays out. Let me get my little reverb mic here. Some of you think that's cheesy, but I love my reverb. I didn't get to... So, let me talk about the first two chords of this song, and it's D minor over C. So we're all very used to minor chords, even minor 7 chords. But what we don't hear as often is a minor chord with the minor 7 in the bass. It gives a completely different tone and feeling. So this song is in C, and the first chord progression is one of the most common progressions that you have, and that's a 2-5 in C. So that's 2-5 is the jazz progression or the pop music progression that wants to go to 1. 2 would be D minor, 5 would be G7, and usually it wants to go home to 1. So what Brian does here is you could call this D minor 7 over C, but if you didn't want the minor 7 up here in your voicing, you just wanted it in the bass, you would call it D minor over C. I'm not 100% sure if the marimba, there's all these cool things going on, it puts a minor 7. I'm not 100% sure. I called it D minor over C. It's got this really nice melody. So it's D minor over C to G7, and the dominant chord, it does this bass line where it just goes G, G sharp A, climbs up to its 9 or its 2. G, G sharp A, G sharp, G, G sharp A, do, do. So that's Wind Chimes. Let's play through it a little bit. Let's hear how the first verse sounds. Ooh, listen to that. Hanging down from my window. That's a hard note. Hanging down from my window, those are my wind chimes. Again. In the warm breeze, the little bells tinkle like wind chimes. Chorus. Sorry. Though it's hard, I try not to look at my wind chimes. Tear rolls off my cheek. Repeat. In the warm breeze, the little bells tingle like wind chimes. So yeah, it's not super. Sorry, it's obnoxious. I That's fun, though. I like it. So, yeah, this takes a 2/5, which is unbelievably common. If you play jazz, jazz is based on 2/5s, and pop music has a ton of them, too. But this is a way to really elevate it. There's two things he does there. He takes the D minor and puts the C in the bass. It almost doesn't come off like a minor chord. You're almost like, what the hell is that? Is it like an F6 over C? You could call that. There's a lot of things you could name that. But D minor 7 over C, or just D minor over C. And then this bass... It really distracts the ear from hearing this as just a straight up 2/5. So all this does in the verse is go 2/5, 2/5. The chorus goes 1, but it puts 3 in the bass, so it's C major, puts that out of tune major third in the bass. We talked about that earlier. I'm not getting into that here. So the chorus is pretty simple. It goes 1 with this 3 in the bass, 4, 5, 6. Then 2 dominant. Usually 2 is minor, right? Remember D minors are 2? So whenever 2 dominant is very common, but you just make it dominant there. Then finally it goes to 5 minor, G minor 7. That is a rule. Anytime you're in, let's say you're in C major, anytime you want it all to add some color, you can go to 5 minor. Back to C. So that's what he's doing here. He breaks the key. G minor 7 is not in the key of C because G7 is in the key of C. But I'm not calling that a key change. I'm calling that just a 5 minor, which you hear a lot in pop music as a way to add something interesting to the diatonic progression. It's not what you're expecting. And then finally it goes to a D minor 7 over G. It goes G minor 7 goes... Can't sing it just out of nowhere. Let's take it from the chorus. Let's get. No, it's hard. I try not to look at my windshield. G minor 7. Now and then. D minor 7 over G. A tear rolls off my cheek. Take the repeat. I forget the lyric right there. Close your eyes and lean back now. Listen. Sorry. Close your eyes and lean back now. Listen to wind chime. In the late afternoon, you're hung upon wind chime. It's hard, I try not to look at my windshield. Then right there goes to what I call the second ending or the bridge, and it goes G7. We've already seen that. And you think it's going to go to C, but it's only C in the bass. So it goes back to D minor. So it reverses the chord progression of the beginning. I'm sorry about this nonsense. So that's an interesting idea, is that you could have your main chord progression, D minor 7 over C to G7, and then later when you're making a bridge and you think, oh, I need to come up with some totally new chord progression. No, you don't. Why don't you just go reverse the 2 chords of the main progression and you have this. And it almost makes it seems like it's just doing a blues, G7 to C7, but it's not. So it's giving that idea of that movement, but this is 5, and it sounds like it's going to 1 because the bass note's resolving, but it's not 1, it's D minor over C. So there are some other parts of this song that kind of do some instrumental breakdown-y things, but it's all the same vibe. Let's play through that one more time, and you can follow along. Let's follow along one more time here. I will say the instruments are really cool. You hear all these marimbas and just a very, very unique. Brian was doing pictorial music during Smile where he wanted the instrumentation to sound like what the song was about. And I don't know exactly what Wind Chimes was about, but it seems there was an elemental suite where something was covering each. So this was probably air. And it seems to be like a real Zen state of mind. The listener's just like listening to these wind chimes and he's totally enchanted by them. So it seems like something kind of simple and innocent like that, but it's really cool. Trying to remember what the lyrics are. Hanging down from my window, those are my wind chimes. In the late afternoon now, hung upon wind chimes. Though it's hard, I try not to look at my wind chime. Here's that 5 minor. Now and then a tear rolls off my cheek. Then back to the verse. Close your eyes and lean back now. Listen to wind chime. Though it's hard, I try not to look at my wind chime. Then take the second ending or whatever. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Then there's some other kind of instrumental breakdowns. Last thing I wanted to say, D minor 7 over G. A very open-ended, ambiguous sounding chord. You could call that chord G9, which implies a dominant 7 because I didn't say add 9. sus4. So I like the way it looks at D minor 7 over G, but if you felt like this was functioning as a G dominant, I would call that G9 sus4, and you may have seen me call it that in other places. So let me see here. General Crow says, hi, hello. Have you ever considered analyzing this whole world? That would be a good one. Yeah, I've got a whole list of songs I want to get to, and I've knocked out more of them in the last year than I thought I would in maybe a lifetime, so I am getting around to some of them. Although I will say, I am kind of a Smile and Before guy. I'm not saying there's not great songs. For me, the non-release of Smile is like the biggest musical tragedy ever, and even though they did some good stuff after that, Brian was truly firing on all cylinders during Smile. And I think it's fair to say that he never was firing on all cylinders again, although he did write some great songs. So I find myself kind of depressed when I go past the Smile era in the Beach Boys. Smiley Smile, Pet Sounds tells us the bass note is different in the Smiley Smile version. The organ drone is definitely not in Smile. Yeah, and Smiley Smile has its moments, but that's what they released instead of Smile. It's like this different versions and less elaborate. And I'm not going to knock Smiley Smile and say it was, but compared to Smile, I think it's not close, although there are some interesting and curious versions on there. But you are right, Dan, or Pet Sounds, that the bass note is different in the Smiley Smile version. So that's the song for now. You guys can download this entire file if you would like to up in the chat. Now I would, I appreciate all you guys sticking around that did. Who's got some questions of any kind over anything I covered at all? I'm happy to answer them, and this was fun, and I'm still learning how to use this dumb little program here, but it's starting to get a little easier for me. If anyone does have some questions, I'm more than happy to take those now. If you don't happen to be on my Patreon, I made this public. I'm hoping to get more people to come over there. So if you're not on my Patreon, please come over and support High Castle Conservatory and join, which really helps me continue to do this. And the reason I make these public is so people can get a taste of some of this unique learning that I don't really think is I think the way I teach is so weird, and it's not something I contrived, but over 30 years of music, I just kind of came up with my own way of doing everything that does touch base with Western harmony, but it also goes outside of it. So Dan says, totally agreed. Is it Oh, he's asking, is the Smiley Smile version of Wind Chimes an example of reharmonization? Possible. I would have to figure out what they're doing. Sometimes it's as simple as not following the bass notes, and it can sound something radical. So I would bet the chords are pretty similar, but I would have to listen to that, Dan, specifically. Maybe you can figure it out for me, and I bet you could tell me. Anyone out there have any question at all that's as long as it's a appropriate question of any type of music or anything, I'm willing to answer. Hey, otherwise we'll probably wrap it up here in a minute, and I guess I'll make this available either public or just for the patrons. But it's anyone who's here is not from my Patreon. I am happy you joined us, and I hope you got a taste of. I'm still working out the kinks, so it's not the smoothest presentation. But ask anyone who's here 2 weeks ago, and I couldn't get my camera to not feedback, and I couldn't show you what my keyboard was playing without it doing an infinite video feedback loop. But if any of you have any questions, please ask them. I will be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I released a video on Dr. Wu on my channel that from Steely Dan that goes through this crazy minor 11 chords. But yeah, this looks like there may be no more questions, and that is totally okay too. I'm not sure if there's a way to have people ask video questions, because that was what I could do on Google that was kind of cool. But I have to figure out if that's even possible on Facebook for people to be guests and come in as it's nice to hear people like ask a question. It's hard to type out certain kinds of questions, but yeah. Thank you guys for joining me here, and come join me on Patreon if you're not already. And those who are, thank you so much. I really appreciate your patronage. And I think I will wrap it up here, and I'll stick around for a second if there are any last-minute questions. Dada Cricket says, I don't mean to be annoying, but any chance of you analyzing Secret Chiefs 3 material? You're not being annoying, first of all. Secret Chiefs 3 is tough, man. Trey is an absolute genius, and his... I'm sympathetic to a lot of the topics he knows a lot about, and I know a teeny bit about him, and he imbues that philosophy into his music. So there's probably certain ones I could do, like the End Times, where I could tell you about the harmonies. And Trey, as far as chord progressions, I hear a lot of Morricone in what he does, and also a lot of like classical music, like Stravinsky and all kinds of stuff, and he doesn't think of chords like me at all, where I'm like, what chord are we on and what key are we in? He seems to intuitively go towards. So Dada Cricket, that would be a really hard task, but it's not one that I wouldn't be willing to take on, especially for certain songs. Like, what chords are those? Like for the End Times, or some of the more abstract ones, I think would be next to impossible, but it is something I'd be willing to do. So keep hounding me about that. I'll see if I can put that in my queue. Songs like The Balance of the 15 make me wonder about the harmonic series stuff. So he's doing, Trey does a lot of, I'm not speaking for him, but obviously I've hung out with him to a degree over the years, and he a lot of the tuning stuff he would get from different like Arabic scales or some Pythagorean type of tunings. Sandra asked a question, so I'll get to Sandra in a second here, but yeah, the 15 would be a good one, because let me just say the tunings he uses, I could justify in the harmonic series. Like when he does that Arabic note that's halfway in between a minor second and a major second. That he's doing something that I could tell you what harmonic it is, but I seriously doubt he's sitting there thinking that's the 35th harmonic. He's coming up with some other crazy calculation that I probably couldn't even get into, but I think that is worth exploring. Trey is one of the greatest musical geniuses on the planet, and is next level. For any of you who don't know, listen to the Secret Chiefs 3. Hard band to get into because they have a lot of stuff, but go listen to their version of Exodus or Book of Horizons, like the End Times, or things like that. I think you'll like it. Sandra asks, any tips for beginners that just got into music theory? That is a tough one, because I know I talk a lot about some complex stuff, Sandra. I would encourage you, I'm not just trying to sell here, but if you come over to my conservatory, I would be happy to get you going. on my Patreon. It's called High Castle Conservatory. You got to just learn. I'm not so much into scales. My thing is chords. My thing is really chords and understanding what a chord progression is, because all of Western music is based on chord progression. So if you're playing that typical doo-wop progression, Sandra, like C, A minor, F, G, I know that that's a 1, 6, 4, 5 in C. So we start to use our ear to just understand basic chord progressions. We've all heard the most common chord progression there is would be 5-1. So if we're in C and then I go to G7, that's 5-1. So it'd be like, I saw the harbor lights. That's 5. We're in G7. We all went to mountains were falling. To 1. Oh, those same old harbor lights. 5. That one taught you to me. So once you learn that, you start hearing songs on the radio. I encourage people to listen to really simple songs from like the 50s and 60s, and you're going to hear all of these chord progressions, and we can start training our ear. Thanks a lot, Uncle Node. He said he really enjoyed it. I really appreciate that, and hope to see all of you at my Patreon if you're not there already. But to finish Sandra's question, my way is not to get so much into like, oh, we're in the melodic minor scale and we're in the third mode of the harmonic. I know that stuff, but it's not that useful to me. What's useful to me is how do songs work, and knowing chord progressions. There's really nothing better. You know, if I'm in C and I want to do 3, 6, 2, 5, I know I can just do. It starts to become second nature. So it is a really intimidating learning curve, Sandra, but I would say just learning simple songs and then learning what functions the chords play. If I'm in doing Elvis, why do Can't Stop Falling in Love? It's in D. So was it 1 stay? So we're in D. That's 1, 3 is F sharp minor. To 6, 1, 3, 6. Shall I stay? Then it goes 4. Should it be 1, 5? Then 4, 5, 1. For I can't. Oh no, 6. 4, 5, 6. Help. 4. Falling in 1, 5. We just talked about 1, 5, 1. So yeah, that would be my recommendation, Sandra. Don't get too caught up into like all the scales and all the more advanced theory, and start just learning chords and make those familiar to you. Any other questions out there? I'm super happy to answer them. I'm thankful all you guys came out. You guys are all come from different spots. Some people know me from my original projects, I.S.S, High Castle Tele Orchestra, Stratosphere. Others of you only know me from my YouTube channel and my analysis of like Beach Boys songs and Steely Dan songs. So it's a kind of a wide world of people that aren't from the same pools. But yeah, thanks, Sandra. I really appreciate you watching it. And I will start to do, I'm planning on starting to get into some simpler. Sometimes I'd gravitate towards those really complex progressions. But even on those videos, if you follow along on the piano, you're at least going to learn, Sandra, like, oh, he said E minor 11, and he told me if I just make this shape from A, which is a perfect fourth above it, that's going to be an E minor 11. Then you go to jam with your friend, and your friend says, let's jam an E minor. And your one friend who doesn't know much, they just play this E minor here, but you go, no, I'm going to play this. That one Tim taught me, E minor 11. So a lot of it is about starting to memorize certain things about chord progressions, and then you'll find that the theory kind of falls more into place. Dada Cricket asks, I'd love to hear a rhythmic analysis sometime of The Days of Blue Jeans Are Gone. Any possibility of that in the future? Wow. The Days of Blue Jeans Are Gone, if you guys don't know, it's on an album I did called High Castle Tele Orchestra, which I would highly encourage you to pick up. It's up on Bandcamp. I hate having to sell everything, but I want to show you guys my music too. It's vinyl, CD, or download, but it's a jazzy song that's inspired by Ennio Morricone. And what I'm doing in that song is something called metric modulations, which is you take one tempo, and then I say, if I were to suddenly turn this to 7/8, instead of it being in 4, but make that the new tempo. So the tempos are going to change. It's a pretty complicated thing, but I would be happy to give that a shot. And these things you're asking me, I could easily forget. I'm going to try to put them on a list and see when I get around to them. But if you keep bothering me about them too, I will not be the slightest bit offended. So feel free to continually bother me until you get what you want. That's my suggestion to everyone, because my to-do list in life is probably, like a lot of us, is fairly large right now, and it's almost overwhelming. Stuff with the kids, stuff with work, trying to produce content here, keeping the wife and kids happy, financial stuff, life stuff, and yeah, there's a lot going on, I think, for all of us right now. But yeah, if you listen to that song, you will hear the tempo keeps changing, and it's what you call a metric modulation. So yeah. Yeah, Dada says it's almost. I brought it up because it's almost an exercise. I think dissecting it would have a lot of utility. Yeah, and I did it the hard way too. Is I kept, I actually kept the tempo the same, and then I changed my time signature so that it didn't make any sense. So it's like the way I would do it in the future is to full on in my DAW is to change the tempo and the time signature. Instead, I kept it all in 4 and kept subdividing in like 5, then in 7 and in 9, and you get these really like non-intuitive click tracks because of that. So next time I do that, I'm going to make sure that I actually calculate the, and I could bring up a calculator, Dada, but to calculate metric modulations is actually pretty easy. If I just get the calculator out, and let's say I'm playing in 130, but then I want to say, let's see, 7, if I wanted to change it to 7/8. So I say 7 divided by 8. That's going to give us this fraction. Times 130, that would be the new tempo I'd need to go to right there, 113.75. Or you could do the opposite and multiply or divide and go the opposite direction. But that would be the related tempo if I want 7/8 of the tempo. But that is some complex stuff. Hopefully it doesn't throw too many of you off. But I really like all your questions and insight, Dada, because you are you keep asking me to analyze the most difficult stuff, man. I like the low-hanging fruit because I can actually pull it off. But yeah, thanks a lot for all your comments, guys. Any last questions? I'm totally happy to it. Yeah, Dada, check out that calculator trick, but that is literally the way I do it. So one more time, that's 7 divided by 8. Now you can either times 130 or divide by 130. So if I times by 130, that's the tempo there. Now 7 divided by 8 divided by 130 should go up in tempo. Oh gosh, maybe I'm wrong about that. 7. Oh, let's say I wanted to go like 9/8 of it. So 1.125 times 130. So that's a related tempo. You'd go up to 146. That's what it is. Anyway. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much, and I hope you guys got something out of this, and I'm happy to take suggestions about stuff for future lessons, but mostly these lessons will be available to my patrons, but I have been doing some public ones to try to get some more people over to there, which is by far the best way to help because YouTube pays me 0.0001 cent per view, and Patreon people are paying me like an average of $7 or $10 a month or something. Whatever they want. It's like there's different tiers, but thanks, guys. Really, really appreciate it. And you guys have an awesome rest of your Saturday.